It being 6:30 p.m., I am calling the Addison County Regional Planning Commission Executive Board meeting to order for July 22nd, 2026. First item on the agenda is approval of minutes from June 24th. I would entertain a motion to approve.
Can I do that even though I wasn't an official member then? How does that work? Okay,
Yep.
All right. So I'll move to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Excellent. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And that was unanimous, so we're good there. On to you for treasurer report.
Okay, let's see. I just have bank balances and accounts receivable here for you tonight. We talked last meeting, you were both here, you were all here, about basically we're shooting to get year end, so June 30th by the September full commission meeting. So that's really where I've got Rebecca pushing on getting, rather than looking at reporting stuff, making sure we get the bills out and close the year end and get the year end accounted for and get on with the audit for year end and get you reporting for year end. So bank balances as of today are $98,259 in the primary checking account. The QUISP account has $539,000 in it. The payroll account has $32,000 in it, and the money market account has $84,000 in it. In addition to that, we have about $149,900, about $150,000 of accounts receivable that are out and have not been collected, and we are still doing a lot of billing for June 30th. So I'll pass those around, but that's my report. Our cash is generally down at the end of the quarter and at the end of the year until we collect them. And I know we've probably got another couple $100,000 of receivables to bill for the end of the year. So I'm not alarmed by those numbers. I like them to be higher. I don't like the main account to get under $100,000. But I know where it is.
Is there a certain, and maybe it's just account specific, but after like that, because I totally hear the point about it being like lower toward the end of the year, is there a certain, is it just a matter of, so maybe this will answer it, but I guess sort of when you think about like catching up for like billing out the stuff is there usually a time frame that kind of generally, is it sort of like a month or two or something where a lot of that rolls out? Is there a typical time frame that a lot of that gets billed out?
Yeah, well, so this month we're doing a lot of billing. Right now we're doing a lot of billing. We get our DHCD funds, so our main planning funds, in 4 installments.
Okay.
And they're about, let's see, $650,000 to $160,000 per installment.
I see.
We haven't billed that and gotten that. They were late in getting us our contract for this year. But hi Tim. We have not billed or gotten that yet, so you don't see that there, but that's another $150,000. And when we do our reporting for them, there's another $40,000 of kind of retainage that they keep till the end of the year.
Yeah.
So we'll have our year-end report to them by the end of the month too.
Yeah, it just like what you're saying, because to me, I figured there were probably some things that like are kind of expected, in certain time frames like that. So I was curious.
Hey, Tim, just to bring you up to speed, we've approved the minutes from last month, and Adam was just going over the bank statements and bank balances.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Adam, I have a general question about not the accounts, but the funds that you use for staffing. And in particular, I know that there was a contract with Middlebury College for the land use plan that they had.
Yep.
I think they were going on that thing for about a year and a half. And so they hired you all.
Yep.
So with your grants and your receivables from the towns and the regular income that's sort of, you can count on it, is that how you staff up? And then when you have extra things to do, you hire consultants, or how do you, what's the core for staffing, and what happens when you have extra work?
Okay, good question. I would tell you, let's see, that we have what I'll call core accounts. The Agency of Commerce is a core account, Department of Housing and Community Development. That's about $600,000 of planning money. It's my favorite money because statute basically allows us to use it for any type of planning whatsoever. So it kind of backfills whatever holes that we have. And then we use it for the regional planning work. We use it for municipal assistance work. We use it for, well, right now, for the past year, we haven't had emergency management funding, but I've used it to basically keep Andrew involved in emergency management. We should have a contract from emergency management going forward from Vermont Emergency Management. So that's, town dues are about $45,000 or so from all of the towns. That is also pretty unrestricted money. And then generally the rest of our funding it's grant funding, but it's contracts to do certain things. So we have a couple $100,000 from VTrans to do transportation planning. Of that, I use a certain amount to hire or to employ Mike, who does most of that. There are others here who do some transportation planning. And then we keep about $50,000 in reserve for tech grants. So we'll hire engineers to do traffic studies or things that towns or the region might need that are a little bit beyond our capabilities, staff capabilities in-house. And honestly, that $50,000 is also kind of a rainy day fund for me, so that if, you know, it's harder to cut staff than it is to cut consultants.
Absolutely.
This year, we've also had Madison Shropshire as a consultant. She's been staff for us previously. Right now, we're employing her as a consultant, and I've been contracting with her on a 4 to 6 month basis. And because of the accounting issues that we had, I didn't have a lot of visibility into some of the accounts and where things were. We're getting a lot better. But it was easier for me and it worked out. Maddie's great. And she had some capacity and we had some need, and it worked out well for us. But, you know, and I ran that through the executive board before we did that. VTrans, emergency management, generally there's about a $50,000 kind of base contract. Agency of Natural Resources, the QUISP contract, we have a $25,000 what I call base contract for a lot of different things, but the Clean Water Service Provider money is more than we've been able to spend, right? It's $1 million a year. A lot of that flows through to other consultants. But it's been more than we've been able to spend. We have not found the projects in the Otter Creek watershed that we'd like to for that.
Aren't there some grants you get that are for not just for this regional planning commission, but for others, and you pay them their share, whatever it is, and then because they don't want a contract with 18 or 14 or how many.
So often the state, there are 11 regional planning commissions in the state. There are 14 counties. NVDA, Northeast Vermont Development Association has 3 counties, and Northwest has 2 counties. Grand Isle County is a pretty small county population-wise. It's like 6,000 people. But there are 11, and yes, there are state agencies that want statewide coverage, but they want to issue one contract. And then basically one RPC serves as a lead. So we are the lead on the a contract that we have with the bond bank, to look at water systems around the state. So, here we're looking at 6 water systems because Virgin's Panton is relatively big and Tri-Town is relatively big as far as covering a portion of the county. So we've been working with them and Middlebury and Bristol and East Middlebury Fire District and Ferrisburg Fire District. And then we administer it for all the other RPCs. But beyond, like I'd say, the base natural resources, emergency management, DHCD, just general land use planning, transportation, those are kind of our base funds. And then we build on those with other grants from other state or federal agencies. So the brownfields is federal EPA as an example, to get to our total budget.
So do you carry a balance every year, more or less? And
Yes.
I get, ever since I've been associated with the RPC, I've thought, wow, what's all that money doing?
So the clean water service provider money is a little different. That's a prepayment, basically.
Yeah, I see.
So it's a little different than the other money that we have, but the way we operate and what's important about our audit is it basically sets an audited rate. So that's our salaries plus our fringe benefit plus our overhead. So, and for 2025, so we will bill 2027, this fiscal year that started July 1st, at the audited rate that is approved for our 2025 year. So the audit we just submitted. So that will be what we bill at, basically. Salaries plus fringe plus overhead at the audited rate. So we're not built to, there's nothing on top of that necessarily. We're not necessarily built to make money. We're built to break even. And depending on whether the overhead goes up or down, we may make a little bit more money, we may lose a little bit of money. We generally have done pretty good about saving a little bit of money every year, making $20,000, $30,000, $40,000. I think I've been here 26 years. I think we've lost money in 3 or 4. And the others we've made a little bit. And some of them at times it's been a very little bit. But that's how we've kind of accumulated the fund balance that gives us the ability to say, if Vermont Emergency Management, for example, doesn't renew an EMPG contract, you can
fill in
with other stuff.
It's really helpful to see the big picture.
And if I can jump in, some of the delay in financial reporting is being able to tie all of those different funding sources to all of the different expenses that go out and, making sure that all of that is clean. So, big picture, you can look at the total balance and say, yeah, we're good here, we're good there, but we're taking more granular and trying to tie all of those together.
So right now we're accounting for about 60 grants, different grants. Some of them are bigger, some of them are smaller. Most of them have their own rules.
So when you do outside work, like for Middlebury College, do you charge them based on your regular rates that you would attribute to the grants?
We charge them at our audited rate.
Okay.
So the Middlebury College grant, and I'm going to have Hannah present that planning study at our September meeting. So that's one of our items a little bit later in the agenda. Was about $100,000 contract in that case. Largely Hannah, basically digitizing all of their properties and looking at all their properties and working with both Matt Curran, who is kind of the business side of Middlebury College, and Mark Lappin, who's the natural resource side of Middlebury College. And they don't always see eye to eye on how they might want to manage some of the, the ancillary properties. We did not look at the main campus. We looked at the 200 and I think it's like 56 other parcels that they own around the Champlain Valley.
Mhm.
Mostly in Middlebury, Cornwall, Weybridge. And then, what do you want to do with this one? And basically created a database for them. So it's a neat project. It's a neat land use planning project.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Stephen. Just to bring you up to speed, we've approved the minutes from last meeting, and Adam was walking us through the treasurer's report, bank balances and accounts receivable, and then just answering questions on how our finances work.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I apologize for being a little late. A little technical difficulties on my end.
No worries. It's all good. Anything else under finances or treasury? Any questions? Okay. Committee reports. Act 250, did they?
They did not meet.
Energy.
We did not meet.
Okay. Local government has not met. Natural resources.
Did not meet.
TAC did not meet.
TAC did not meet.
Economic development.
Did meet as the Brownfields Committee. Do you want to say something about that, Melanie? Were you there? I think you
Yeah,
were.
and I think, because we gave that general report out at the last full commission meeting.
Oh, okay.
That was
So-
before the full commission meeting.
Yeah, so
Okay.
we didn't really have anything since then, I don't think.
No worries then. Housing.
We did meet.
You guys met. I didn't.
I know, you weren't
I
there.
was in a different meeting. Sorry.
Yeah, somebody knew that. I have something to report and ask for agreement on, but I'm not sure that this is the place where you want it on the agenda. I could do it under new business as well.
Do the report first.
Okay, well, we talked a lot
Okay.
about what we wanted to do after the regional plan is approved by the commission and the LURB and the, after it's signed, sealed, and delivered, what then? And I think with the experience that various ones of us have had in our own towns, in whatever capacity, most of us on planning commission and other things, we thought there's a great need for outreach to the towns to help them answer the question, how do we get more housing done? And that there are many in the towns who wish to know more. And so we devised a thing called a toolkit. I mean, this is a regular term that's being used these days, where you put together a whole bunch of resources that people can use in various ways. A toolkit and an outreach effort that could be fashioned in any way. Maybe it would be different in different towns, but it would involve the delegates to that town, a member of the housing committee, and maybe a person from the staff, if the staff is willing to do that. And I think it goes beyond the scope of what you would call planning. It morphs into, I don't want to be crude about it, but kind of making good trouble.
Okay.
And helping people understand what their options are and how they can use what's in the plan first to eliminate barriers, because that's what mostly the plan is addressing, eliminating barriers to various things like building housing or getting housing. But housing doesn't just come along and fall in your lap. You have to chase it, and so we want to help.
Okay.
That's it.
I would defer action on that until later in the agenda. I do have a question. Did the members of the housing committee that were there discuss the testimony that we had at?
We did.
Okay.
And Katie took good notes.
Yes, she did. And I gave her some comments because I wasn't going to be there. I'm just curious.
Oh, yes, we did. we went through all those comments and we discussed the response. And we noted that most of the comments were from people who thought whatever it is that they think ought to be what everybody else thinks.
Yes,
But that wasn't anything that we put in our comments. We just observed that that was the
Yep.
case.
absolutely.
And we grinned at each other over that. So
My question is, based on the testimony, the housing committee decided to amend the plan or leave it as is?
there was one very, very minor change to a heading.
Okay,
that
so
I
something
instigated.
non-substantive, okay,
There was nothing that we thought needed to change in light of the comments.
Okay.
And we, given that people, you know, I told you this about that we grinned at each other and thought everybody made comments based on what they
Oh,
thought
of
that
course.
everybody should think, but that isn't a reason to change a plan.
right, exactly. I wanted to know officially so that we could say, good, we're good to go.
Yeah.
September, we can do that. I wanted, because that was kind of the only thing that could have, if the housing committee strongly felt that we wanted to make a change, we'd have to go through and do another public hearing. So
We strongly felt that the plan should go forward as is.
Perfect, that's what I needed to
And
know.
Katie had one little, it was a very silly thing, but you know, when people make comments, they pull out of the plan something that gives them, makes them angry, and they use words that may be out of context or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah,
And she had said that adequate housing, the definition of adequate housing is, and then it talks about all these groups that need adequate housing. But there is no such thing as a definition for adequate
Right.
housing. And I
Right.
said that we didn't want people to pull that out. And we
Yeah.
could say housing for these groups needs to be adequate and leave the word definition out of it.
Yeah.
And so that is a
okay.
very minor change. And has Katie showed you the comments? Or have you?
I haven't, I talked about it with her, so I knew that you weren't gonna make any substantive changes, but I haven't seen a specific response yet.
Well, they're very mild.
Okay.
Because we
Yeah.
didn't want to make people wrong. We didn't want to say
Yeah.
that's not true, but some of it wasn't true.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, no, I agree, I reviewed them.
We just wanted to
last week,
repeat what
and-
the plan
Yeah,
said, basically.
Perfect, okay,
And Katie's, I mean, I can't tell you in every instance what those
oh,
comments
that's
were.
fine, you know, I wanted to make sure that what the final decision of that committee was, so that's perfect.
We decided to do vanilla flavored comments.
That works. Okay, that leads us right into old business, which is the regional plan update, which is a nice segue.
Good. So we're gonna go to a vote in September, as we planned. I don't think Joya had some comments. I haven't, at the hearing as well.
Yes, she did.
I haven't, I've asked her for them, and I haven't seen them yet. But I will get them to the Economic Development Committee when I can.
Yeah,
She's the chair of the Economic Development Committee. From what she said at the hearing, I didn't feel like they were going to be a substantive change to the plan either.
perfect, okay.
I just have to say that I have read that plan 3 times now. And I know I've told you this before, that is a damn good plan.
Thank
I
you.
mean, it's really, really, really tight and it's informative and I think if communities know how to use it, it's going to be really, really useful to them. It's not just a piece of paper. I mean,
Good.
many pieces of paper. So we all thought it was on the housing committee, we thought it was a very good plan.
Yeah, oh, I agree. I'm sorry I wasn't there. I was at a Maple broadband meeting. Okay, outreach and new initiatives.
I guess I should finish. We'll vote September.
Oh, sorry.
We need a supermajority of delegates. So I will make sure and ask everybody to get there. Assuming it passes, I can't imagine it won't, but we have 15 days then to get it to the LURB, the Land Use Review Board. they gave us a very positive preliminary review, and we addressed all their comments, so I don't anticipate any issues. I imagine they will, hold their hearings and do their thing and get to it, October, November or so. And then we will have, basically have an official copy of the plan, but there's a little to do afterwards.
Do you
after the
go
vote.
to their hearing?
Yeah, we'll be, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes,
Great.
I expect it will be a non-event, but, right, you never know.
Outreach and new initiatives.
Great, and this is for all of you, to chime in on as well. But the first item is largely what Anna and the Housing Committee were talking about, is basically implementing the plan.
Right.
So, what I have asked staff to do, is go back to their committees, and we'll reappoint new committees in September. For right now, we kind of have,
Carry
lame
over.
duck committees, or, yes. But we'll do that in September. And I've asked them to speak with each of the committees and basically ask them, what implementation actions do you want us as staff to work on with you to implement the plan? So natural resources, economic development, housing, transportation, et cetera, through the plan. So that's what I'm looking for the committees to do. So, if I guess this is getting into a little bit of substance on the housing committee. If the housing committee wants to basically do education and outreach on housing through a tool, I wrote it down, objective 3, number 1, subtopic implementation step number 1 was basically outreach and education.
Yeah.
So if that's what you choose as
Yeah.
your primary implementation step, then that's the one that we'll start on first,
Okay.
right? And the plan's good for 8 years, so we can do one now and do another one later. We can do a couple now. I don't want to. There are a lot of things that we do within our contracts as well. So I want to be smart about committing to staff time, but I want to start with 1 or 2 implementation steps with each committee.
Great.
And if it's committee directed, that's fantastic.
Yep.
And as far as the housing committee does not need the executive committee to
Bless it.
bless it in any way. That's one of the reasons why I said we'll hold off on action, because there's really no action that needs to be taken from this body.
There's another aspect of this that I think is important, and we've all heard it. A lot of people got the Act 181 stuff mixed up with the plan. And it's really a good idea to reach out to communities to make sure that they understand what Act 181 is as a changed thing, and what the plan is, and what the differences are, so that they can use the plan and work under the 181 constraints if they so choose to, to buy into 1B, then at least it's straight in their heads which is which. The plan is the plan for 8 years, and it helps them remove barriers. And 181, I mean, I think people think of, in the comments that were pertaining to housing, they were geared towards people complaining that the state was dictating things from above, and they didn't like it. And I think they put the Regional Planning Commission in the same bucket as the state, and were complaining. So part of the reason for doing this outreach at this particular time is to help people understand that the Regional Planning Commission is there to support their planning efforts, not to dictate what they should do. Even though housing targets are in the plan, there's no housing target police lodged in this building that I know of.
Because of the timing.
Yes,
of the
it's
plan
very
update.
unfortunate.
Yeah, it was easy to get those conflated.
Yes.
So, agreed.
And I think the whole commission needs to be aware that that timing issue has, at least in the housing, I don't know about the others, but in the housing section, it was very much on people's minds that somebody was going to take over their ability of what they can do on their land. And that had to do with Act 181 or their understanding of 181, not the regional plan.
Correct.
So good thing to illuminate people's perspective on.
Yep.
Right, Harvey?
Yeah, I was thinking along the same lines, you know, have we separated the two out very clearly? And it sounds like we have.
Well, we have, I'm not sure the members of the public have.
We just have to change the perception at the municipal levels to say, hey, you know, these are two separate things. We can help you here. We can help you there if you want to participate in that, but we can help you here with all of these other things that we do normally.
Yeah, because I know one of the county planning commissions is having quite a lot of pushback from their local
Yep.
landowners.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just kind of following that, and I was following it, and Adam was kind enough to get me on the right mapping process and looking up, and it's got a lot more information than I was really looking for, but it was very helpful, so.
Is that
thank you,
New
Adam, for doing
Haven?
that.
Is it New Haven?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's
So,
where,
but Adam got me on a statewide map, so I could go and look, and, you know, I was looking at Cornwall and Moncton mostly, and some of the sensitive natural resource areas that have a significant impact on the value or the lack of the value of that property. And I want to make sure that we keep that in the back of our mind. We all have some sensitive areas on the land that we own. And there's a lot of oversight from a lot of different agencies that kind of, you know, supervise or have oversight over what we do and how we do it and where we go to get permits and this, that, and the other thing. And, you know, it's already pretty complicated. I don't want to get it any worse.
So yeah, I sent Harvey to the LURB, the Land Use Review Board's website, where they had their tier 3 and their road rule maps, was what he was looking at, and those have since been repealed.
I guess I should interject one other thing that is on my mind about, and it came up in some of these comments that were from New Haven. This is really hard, and this is not a Vermont thing. This is happening many places. But it happens in Montpelier, and people know it. And that is that there are laws in many states, Vermont is one of them, that seem to be about what should happen in the urban areas. Mm-hmm. And the rural areas are kind of whatever, you know. It's not, there isn't a sense in most states that the rural areas should be supported for what it is that their mission is,
right,
which is to feed us and to keep natural areas natural and a whole bunch of other things, and there are people's homes there. And there's all this attention to the way urban people live, and that's rather unfortunate, and that's another reason for going out to the towns to help them say, what is it we need? What is it we want for our town? And there are, I mean, it's kind of ridiculous to call anything in Addison County urban, in my opinion. But there are urban biases in Montpelier, definitely.
Yeah.
And I think people react to them negatively. And it's unfortunate. So we're hoping this outreach will help people in the rural areas understand that they have just as much right to have assistance to do what they need to do as people in the urban areas have. Right.
And I'm going to skip a bullet point for just a moment. To dovetail to that, the local government committee, normally, in normal years, all we're doing is reviewing municipal plans when they come up for renewal. Some years that means we're really, really busy doing that every month or thereabouts, sometimes even more than that. Other years, we could maybe meet once or not at all. To help even out that resource, I've always, not always, but over the last several years, I've been thinking we need to be able to do something more for outreach. You know, we're local government, we're talking to all of these different towns anyway. Can we help spread whatever message needs to be spread? So if the housing committee is coming up with, here's the message, here's the toolkit, here's what we want to say, there are some warm bodies to help you say it. And likewise, if there are other things that staff are coming up with, or, you know, like when we were doing the whole 181 outreach and getting people on board, the local government committee could have assisted staff and helped get that message across. So I'm hoping that we can put together a roadmap for that activity, and just be a resource for the other committees, the commission as a whole, staff, to be able to assist with those kinds of things. Now we can go back to the other button.
Well,
Before
Sure.
you move on, you know, it kind of, I was part of that meat grinder up in Montpelier for quite a number of years.
Yes, you were.
Adam was a friendly face that came up and looked out for the county's interest on a number of issues. But, so I know how that system works, and I'm just kind of wondering how do you separate the practical town planning process with the combination of the activists up there trying to make some extreme changes here and there.
Right.
And that's where, you know, that I'm looking at from a different perspective than somebody that hasn't been in the meat grinder.
Understood. So what I'm looking at for things like this is, so if the housing committee comes up with a housing toolkit for Addison County, or maybe even specific for specific towns, that we are there at the local government committee is there as a resource that might attend a planning commission meeting to help answer questions that local planning commission may have about what are you trying to do here? What is this? Why is it important to us? How do we do this if we want to incorporate it into our system? So it might start with a planning commission meeting. It might go to a select board meeting. I don't know yet. That's the thing. We haven't. This is brand new. So we're going to build the plane as we're trying to fly it. But I want to make that resource available rather than just do municipal plan reviews.
But hasn't that resource always been available to some degree?
Yeah, but it's never been called on.
Oh, it's never been called on?
Right. So all that the local government committee has ever done, as long as I've been on it, which has been 10 years, we do plan reviews. But if somebody said, hey, could you come to New Haven and talk to us about X, Y, and Z? I want to be able to do that.
Sounds fair.
And, you know, no agenda other than being a resource.
Good.
And you had a question.
Yeah, or a comment, right? I think the example you gave about, you know, if the housing committee is doing something and that would connect with the local government committee. And to me, it raises this broader issue or topic of the interconnectedness of the committees and the work that we're doing. And I don't know how we want to necessarily approach that, but it seems like we need to somehow integrate a bit more. And I don't know if that's after like the suggestion of each committee meets and thinks about what are the priorities for this year or whatever. And maybe once that's decided, maybe at the following meeting or whenever we start talking about action steps, I don't know if it's a matter of just letting other people know when that next committee meeting is, and sort of like, hey, if your committee, you know, if the work you're doing or your committee's work overlaps with this and you would like to join and listen to the conversation or participate, you're willing to. So it's kind of like low effort. It's more of like, we're having this meeting anyway, if you know,
Yeah.
if there's overlap and you want to join in the conversation. But to me, we're lacking some cross-pollination or communication in those conversations. And since we're at the beginning of implementation and we're already going to have those conversations, it's not that I necessarily have a recommendation, but I'd like to see that door open a little bit, or those, because you know, you guys are already talking about making connections, but and I know we have full commission meetings that also are a setting for connection, but some of that more nuanced conversation, I think, happens in the committee meetings.
Yes,
So
definitely.
just maybe we could think about opportunities to integrate other people, or at least let them know of opportunities to collaborate.
Agreed.
I'd like to say something about that. I agree with you totally. And the interface between housing and economic development is really important, and local government. Because we all know that this housing crisis means that businesses are trying to recruit people and they don't have any place to live, so they can't fill the positions. This is a problem. And I think in the housing committee and in my own town and the planning commission, it would be really a wonderful thing to have data. So I was wondering about your money. You know, I would love to have a download from what VHFA and the Housing and Conservation Board have funded in the last 5 years and the last 10 years, and then overlay that on the demographics from the census, and then project out to 2030 and look at your housing targets. You know, because these towns are going to say, what are you talking about? How are we supposed to?
Right.
I mean, if you put that in the plan, they're liable to say, well, what do you mean we have a housing target? And people aren't going to understand what they're supposed to do about it.
And under other, further down, I want to talk a little bit more about data.
Yeah, okay, but anyway, I think that the interface among the committees is very important, and that we all need some kind of database that we can look at that characterizes the problem and illustrates it, so that we can use that as part of the toolkit when we go out to communities and say, you know what, here's your population. You got an explosion of baby boomers and you can't fill your school, so they may close it. And people don't understand what's going on. You know, they just know they don't like it. So I think if we had some data that we could pull out of our hip pocket, look at it, see how it applies to the issues, and then use it in our outreach, it would really help. I mean, I just know from my town, the people on the planning commission are smart people. They would get it if you show them the facts and project it. You know, population data you can project. Here's the
trend.
Here's the trend for elderly, and here's the trend for kids. It's plain on paper, and you can't mistake what's going on. So then, you know, you can't just talk about housing. You have to say, well, what people are we talking about housing for? And the economic development people will say, well, our businesses don't have housing for new people coming in, and they have kids, and we have all these elderly people, and they're living in 6-bedroom houses, and there are only 2 of them. That kind of conversation. So I really think we can help people at the local level through the committees addressing these things with a bunch of data and the plan beside us, and we look at how the people have come, how far they've come to removing the barriers. But now we got to look at, well, what can they do to take advantage of opportunities? And the plan doesn't talk about opportunities per se. It just says, here are the resources that might give you opportunities, but you don't really know how to translate that into housing coming so that
Right.
the businesses can
Right.
recruit people better, and the hospital and the college and whoever, not just businesses. I'm sorry to go on and on.
No, that's okay.
I just have one more, I know we're trying to move off of the committee stuff, but I tried to go through the plan and in my mind, note what committee is addressing which chapter, and I know it's not a clean delineation by chapter. And so I guess when the whole exercise of if we're gonna meet with committees and talk about priorities, to me, it's also each committee understanding which things they're responsible for in the plan, if it's not a clean chapter delineation. That's one thing, because there are a couple of them like flood resilience. Is that to me is more than natural resources, so there are a couple,
Sure.
things like that.
Mhm.
So I think if just making known if we have some kind of whoever's coming to the meeting, we know kind of what our purview of objectives and goals and things. But then I think it might have been raised at our last commission meeting too, for the ones where we don't have a direct committee, like the community infrastructure. Again, maybe we're divvying it up again across current committees, but that's just something that I want us to be clear on who's doing what. And then the ones that apply to everything, like if say whatever committees are meeting, we have the instruction of we're going to talk about what are we doing moving forward. And then the ones that apply to everything, like the equity, to me, equity, I think that should maybe be on everyone's, like how are we considering this throughout, or, the cross-cutting things. My concern is that it's easy enough to be like, I'm working on energy. I look at the energy chapter. I'm working on economic, and I think some things could get lost in the shuffle. And I just want to make sure that we're being thoughtful and explicit about what we're doing, what we're not doing and somebody else is doing, or just so everybody's clear on that. So that no one is kind of like, oh, I didn't know our committee was supposed to be doing that. So that was just the last thing on that.
We're not gonna get to all the implementation steps in the plan in the first year.
Oh, no, for sure not. But I have a feeling that question is going to be raised. And so it's like the twofer, you know what I mean? Like, so committees know, but also to proactively, I think people are going to be questioning, well, who's doing this? And so kind of like proactively laying out the responsibilities there, so. All right, done.
No, that's all good. Moving back up a bullet, commissioner interaction with staff and presentations of projects at full commission. And Adam mentioned the one for September with Hannah coming in. But we kind of want to do that, every month, or almost every month, have somebody. And this came from you guys when I met with you before you were on the e-board, just, I don't know who's in that office, what do they do, why are they here? Being able to really articulate that is important. And so we've talked about it, and I don't know if you want to say anything else about that bullet point.
So I've got, it'll be project-based, again, probably. So to some extent, contractor part project-based, and I will try and rotate it amongst the staff. So I'm gonna start with Hannah in September on the Middlebury College planning project. The other ones that I will probably do will be the RAISE, the Transportation-Oriented Development Grant that we did in Virgins and Ferrisburg and Middlebury. So it doesn't apply to anybody, but it does hit housing, it does hit infrastructure. And those those grants will be largely completed by October, November. I will probably have Andrew talk about emergency management and the Regional Emergency Management Committee. So it's not necessarily a committee of the Regional Planning Commission, but it's a committee of all of the emergency planning directors in each of the towns that Andrew organizes. What other ones did I write down? Brownfields, the committee just had this is what we did over the last 4 years. These were the projects that we did over the last 4 years. I may do that one again. It'll be kind of boring for you, but if,
No, I think it's good because I think people also understand it because we're starting new work. I think just so people have an understanding of brownfields and also what is the new grant, just having that
Right.
understanding so they understand work moving forward and the possibilities of, so I think that would still be really helpful for people.
So those were four of them that came to mind pretty quickly, and I think as we have projects moving forward and projects finishing, those will be the one, they've got to be far enough along.
Yeah.
The Muslamu project is a nice project that we're doing. That one's probably, we may work you into public outreach, because it's not as far along as, we don't have a final product to present like we do for the Middlebury College one or for the Brownfields one. But I've got a bunch of ideas, and I'd probably do it every month or every other month, depending upon
What's
other
happening.
commission business. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's great.
Shared services, regionalization of services.
So this is one that I also heard from you all, an interest of you all. It's been something that VAPTA's been talking about for a long. VAPTA is the Vermont Association of Planning and Development Agencies, so it's all of the regional planning commissions. We amended our bylaws probably 3 or 4 years ago to allow us to do some shared services work. So it could be, hiring a zoning administrator that goes out to Virgins and New Haven and Middlebury, or probably not Middlebury, Cornwall. Or it could be listers, Tim. It could be, to a certain extent, Maple Broadband is a shared service that we kind of put together. And I have Andrew going out to the fire district meetings in Virgins and Panton and Ferrisburg. So there are some things that we're already doing staff-wise, but it's something that we'll keep pursuing. I will tell you, finding the perfect storm of, I need 10 hours and they need 5 hours and they need 20 hours, and then finding the right person for them that's willing to
It's gonna be
travel is not easy, but it can be done.
Yeah, I'm wondering, is there a way that we can have it be somehow like an ongoing topic, even if no one has anything to say, either at our meetings or somewhere? It's sort of like, does anyone have any shared services needs or something where it's regularly a topic where people can, I feel like if we keep it on people's radar, if we have a full commission meeting, I think a lot of times it might be nothing, or like you said, it might be something where it's like, that's not going to work out with anyone, but getting people to continually think about that and have a venue to raise the issue.
Would the newsletter be prominent enough, or
Yeah, I guess
not?
to me, this sounds bad, but how many people read the newsletter of the commissioners?
It's hard for me to know.
Right,
how
so
many
that's what I
people
mean,
read
like, because part of me
send
is
it
like,
out
yeah,
to
that
about
sounds
500
good.
people.
But then there's the whole, maybe it's negative, but I feel like if you don't say it in person to people, we don't know if they heard it or if it's on their radar.
I think we could do both. It's, because the newsletter goes, as Adam said, about 500 people.
Yeah,
So it's a
I mean, I
different-
like that idea.
It's a different list, but we can also, at the,
Most of them are in municipal government,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
of that 500 people, it's all the planning commissioners and all the DRB
Yes,
members.
no, I mean, that sounds really helpful. I think part of me wonders how much it's falling off. You know what I mean? If it's not top of mind, if we're not just constantly being like mentioning it, sort of just like we're like, is there any whatever team member shout outs or whatever, any shared service concerns or, whatever, because if people are in the room, they can always connect with someone after or connected. Right. I don't know. Maybe that's not helpful, but I'm just trying to think of ways where we're keeping it on people's minds.
The other thing we're gonna do is more basically select board meetups. So Janelle's gonna plan out one for October. We did one, when did we do one? This spring. So we're gonna do one in October and we'll do one again in the spring, but that's a good place for that topic area.
That sounds like a good venue for it, yeah.
And talking about data, it would be really helpful for thinking about this regionalization of services to have a database of the staff that they have in the towns. How many full-time people, what are their
It's a pretty
titles.
small database.
That's called the Orange
Really,
Book.
but they hire, like in Cornwall, we have a 1 day a week town treasurer.
Mhm.
Well, you gotta be doing treasurer work every day if people come in and bring money and wanna have questions about things. So the town clerk has to answer, this is, there are deficits in
Oh.
the government functioning in these towns because they don't have full-time staff, except for Middlebury and, whatever.
Not even Virgin's, I'll tell you.
So, I mean, it seems to me that we ought to ask these towns to say, what is your staffing? How many hours a week do they work and what are their functions? So that if somebody says, I need, my treasurer left and maybe they can get together with somebody else to use their part-time treasurer, whatever. Right? That's what you want to do. You want to get these folks together to do common use
Yeah,
of the resources.
That
Pretty
data
soon you have
currently
county
exists.
government.
That data currently exists. I can't remember, but we give that data to whoever that group is, and they create a book and tells me what the salaries are and what the hours
CT.
are for
That's right.
every member of the staff in in
Yeah.
the towns that participate.
Yeah, VLCT
Yeah,
has all.
Vermont League of Cities and Towns, right?
Well, does anybody ever look at it?
I know, for
We
example.
use it all the time.
Yeah.
We use it all the time. That's how we set salaries. That's how we decide what to pay or how many
Exactly.
members of the road crew we need, and et cetera, et cetera.
Well, Stephen, who is we?
The town of Moncton.
Okay, your select board?
I was on the select board for 14 years, yeah.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah, and Virgin's does the same.
okay.
Other executive board priorities, I use this moment to talk about. So at our last full commission meeting, Ron Dendis from Bristol talked about, he said health, but I think that's confusing. I think he more meant wellness. And afterward, actually it was this morning, he and I sat down and talked for 45 minutes. And I got a much better sense of what he's looking at doing, and that's the data part. So his background is from healthcare, but very data-driven in the Lehigh Valley of Pennsylvania. And so as part of Bristol working on updating their municipal plan, he had met with the planning commission and spent, he said, about 150 hours developing a report for the town of Bristol that talks about, here, based on census tract data, here are, this is where you have affordability issues. Here are mental health issues. It's all anonymized, but developing something that is a useful tool data-wise that goes along with other planning processes so you can see what are the significant issues and to what extent are those significant issues, how much of our population is living in poverty, and gives you a tool to maybe do a different kind of outreach, because we were talking about it, that, okay, you can have a public hearing or a public meeting on something, and, for the city of Virgins, which has a population of 2,500, 2,600 people, if you get 100 people that show up for something, that's fantastic. And it's usually the same people, and you hear their voices, their concerns, but you don't hear necessarily all of the other concerns. But this may, for Bristol, he's trying to use that to reach out and get some of those other voices and have them be heard as that town continues to plan. And I like the idea, and in terms of, he says it's not really ready for public consumption, but taking this idea and developing a roadmap or another toolbox or a toolkit that can maybe be emulated by other municipalities. And as, Regional Planning Commission wants to be the repository of knowledge for these things, it may be something that easily fits here, even if it's not directly linked, and if we don't have a sitting committee for it, it may be just some, at least at the beginning, some individual people working on this and trying to figure out how to make it work. But that was exciting to me.
It's great.
Yeah, I think I've had a conversation with Ron just about data stuff in general, and I think part of, in addition to what you're saying and in tying to what you're saying, I think there's a real interest that was further illuminated by the work he was doing of the need for downscaled local census tract data, because at a county level or regional level, state level, a lot of things can be masked because the data isn't as granular. And I think that's part of my understanding of what he could find helpful if RPC were to, or whomever house data, have more downscaled data available for different purposes that people could access, or the public, we could access, committees could access, the public could utilize once they have, understand as part of the technical assistance of how do we apply this information by having that data available.
So more to come. I mean, this is just the kernel of that idea. But, as we evolve with this, we may have roles in it.
Melanie, your day job is in kind of a data-driven business, isn't it?
It is somewhat. I do a lot more of the qualitative stuff. I do social science consulting, so a lot of data, but I tend to do a lot of the qualitative data collection and policy analysis and things like that. But I guess out of all the data people I work with, I'm probably one of the least data people, but I am still kind of a data person, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean? Like there are people that's like, they're building models, they're doing, very advanced spreadsheets. I'm more of like, I understand data, can work with it, but yeah, I'm more, I guess it's all relative, I guess. I never want to claim something that it's like, let's manage everyone's expectations. Like, yes, I understand and I use it. Like, I would use a lot of that census tract data and things like that. I'm pretty familiar with all of that, but I don't have a PhD in statistics, and I'm not doing big data, so yeah.
Anything else? Hearing crickets. Okay, if we don't need executive session, any member concerns or information that anybody wants to share? Okay, it being 7:34 p.m., we will adjourn by unanimous consent. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Shannon.
Thanks, Shannon.
You bet.
Thanks,
Have a
Adam.
good week.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank
Shannon.
you, guys. Okay.